All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking the code on what is, let's be honest, one of the absolute toughest challenges in any organization: leading change. We're going to dive deep into the legendary work of John Cotter to figure out why so many big, ambitious transformations, everything from a new tech rollout to a complete cultural overhaul, why they so often just fizzle out. So let's get into it and unpack the common mistakes and, more importantly, how you can actually avoid them.
It's the question that probably keeps a lot of leaders up at night, right? You've got this bold new strategy, a brilliant plan for a reorg, maybe a game changing acquisition. You pour in all the money, all the time, all the energy, and yet, way more often than we'd like to admit, it just doesn't stick. So, what is going on? Why is this so hard?
Well, here's the really crucial insight from all of John Cotter's research. These failures aren't random. It's not just bad luck or some mysterious forces working against you. It turns out, most of the time, they fail because organizations make the same, totally predictable mistakes over and over again. And you know what the good news is? If the mistakes are predictable, that means they are also avoidable. Okay, so let's start with the diagnosis. Cotter basically lays out 8 fatal errors that can absolutely torpedo any major change initiative. You should think of this part as the essential checklist of what not to do. The first one, and honestly, it's the biggest one by far, is just not creating a powerful enough sense of urgency. Look, people naturally cling to what they know, to the status quo. The thinking is, sure, we have some problems, but are they really that bad? If you can't light that fire and create real urgency, you're never going to get the buy-in and the extra effort you need. That urgency, it's the fuel for the entire journey. Without it, you're going nowhere. And let's be really clear about this. No single person, not even the most charismatic CEO on the planet, can pull off a major change alone. It just doesn't work. Successful change needs a powerful team, a guiding coalition with the right mix of titles, expertise, credibility, and true leadership to drive the whole thing forward. A weak committee or some lone wolf boss, they're always going to be steamrolled by the forces of tradition and inertia.
This is a classic mistake. We confuse plans and programs with a real vision. But a vision does something much more powerful. It clarifies the direction of the change. It motivates people to take action even when things get really tough, and it helps coordinate everybody's efforts without needing a million meetings. Without a clear, compelling vision, your change effort just dissolves into this messy, confusing list of projects that, frankly, don't go anywhere fast.
So you think you're communicating the vision, right? You gave a speech, you sent a memo. Well, Cotter's research says you're probably underdoing it by a factor of 10, or maybe even 100. Seriously, a few town halls and emails are not going to cut it. To really capture people's hearts and minds, that vision has to be everywhere, all the time. And most importantly, the leaders have to be living it. Their actions, their deeds, they will always speak louder than words.
Okay, so let's say you've communicated the vision and people are actually excited. They're ready to go. But then they hit a wall, a real obstacle. This could be an outdated company structure, a compensation system that still rewards the old way of doing things, or even just one powerful manager who refuses to adapt. And for employees, this is incredibly disempowering. They want to move forward, but they're blocked. These obstacles have to be dealt with head on. Real transformation is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And to keep morale and momentum high, you absolutely have to create some clear, undeniable wins within, say, the first 6 to 18 months. These wins do 2 things. They quiet down the cynics, and they give a huge energy boost to your supporters. But here's the key. You have to actively plan for these wins. You can't just hope they happen.
The victory lap. After you get a few of those short-term wins under your belt, the temptation to celebrate and say, "We did it," is huge. But this is a trap. Declaring victory too soon is one of the worst things you can do because it kills your urgency. It gives all those powerful forces of tradition a chance to creep right back in and undo all of your hard work. And trust me, that regression can happen with shocking speed.
And finally, for any change to truly last, it has to become part of the company's DNA. It needs to become, simply, the way we do things around here. Until these new behaviors are really rooted in the group's everyday norms and shared values, they're fragile. The second the pressure is off, people will just go right back to their old habits. This is the final, crucial step to make it all stick.
Okay, so that's the diagnosis. That's what goes wrong. It's this cascade of errors that can sink even the best of intentions. But Cotter doesn't just leave us there with the problems. He gives us a very clear prescription, a proven,
8-stage roadmap that directly counters every single one of those fatal errors. So let's take a look at what that path forward actually looks like.
And here it is, the antidote to those 8 errors. You can probably see it immediately, right? Each step in this process directly fixes one of the mistakes we just talked about. It starts with establishing urgency to fight that complacency. Then you create the guiding coalition, so you're not trying to do it alone. From there, you develop and communicate the vision. The middle stages are all about making it happen, empowering action by getting rid of those obstacles and generating short-term wins to build momentum. And finally, you see it through. You consolidate gains instead of declaring victory too soon, and ultimately, you anchor that change in the culture. It's a powerful step-by-step process, and skipping any of these steps is just not an option.
But what's the real engine driving this whole process? What's the fundamental idea underneath it all? Well, that brings us to what might be the single most critical insight in all of Kotter's work, the huge, profound difference between management and leadership. Getting this difference is the key to, well, everything. This table just lays it out so perfectly. Take a look at the 2 columns. Management is all about coping with complexity. It's about keeping the current system stable and predictable, planning, organizing, controlling. Leadership is fundamentally different. It's about creating change. It's about setting a direction, aligning people behind that direction, and motivating them to get there, especially when the road gets bumpy. And that leads us to this incredibly powerful conclusion. Most organizations are overmanaged and underled. They try to manage their way through change with project plans, budgets, and endless control systems. But you can't manage your way through a real transformation. You have to lead it. And that fundamental imbalance, that simple truth, is why so many change efforts fail before they even really get started.
So what does all of this mean for organizations today? Well, in a world that is only getting faster, more complex, and more competitive, these ideas are more important than ever. You see, the successful organization of the 21st century is going to be an adaptive one. It's going to need a culture where a sense of urgency is normal, where leadership is nurtured at every single level, not just in the C-suite, and where change is embraced as an opportunity, not something to be feared. Kotter's framework isn't just about a single project. It's really a blueprint for building that kind of agile, resilient organization. And that brings us to our final thought for you to take away. As you look at the challenges and the opportunities that are happening in your own world, ask yourself this simple but really profound question. Is your organization truly being led through change, or is it just being managed? The answer to that question might just tell you everything you need to know about its future.